Today, we will start our investigation of comparative anatomy and physiology. What that means is that we will compare the anatomical structures of different animals to better understand why they look the way they do. This has to do with function, and physiology is the study of anatomical function. So anatomy would focus on the parts of the heart, like the atrium and the aorta, while physiology would focus on how the heart pumps blood. Each cell in your body has a specific function. Similar cells come together to form layers called tissue. Different types of tissue come together to form organs, like your lungs, brain, and skin. Some organs work together to have a particular function. For example, the heart, blood, and blood vessels all work together to transport materials around the body and are therefore referred to as an organ system. In this case, the circulatory or cardiovascular system. Combine all 11 organ systems together and you get an organism. During development, the first cells that form are called stem cells. And these are important because they have the ability to become any future type of cell. They are like kids who haven't decided what they want to be when they grow up. You have probably heard about the medical use of stem cells as being controversial. This is because they must come from a living embryo and are therefore often associated with abortions. Research using stem cells has given us a better understanding of many diseases, taught us how we can regrow cells and even organs, and given us a way to test new drugs faster and more efficiently. Treatments for Parkinson's disease and Huntington's disease have been derived from stem cell research. This lecture will focus on the integumentary system, also known as the skin. Subsequent lectures will cover most of the other 10 systems. Let's begin by examining what the skin is and how it is used.
Between you and the rest of the world lies an interface that makes up 16% of your physical weight. This is your skin, the largest organ in your body. Laid out flat, it would cover close to 1.7 square meters of ground. Its purpose may seem obvious, to keep our insides in. But a look beyond the surface reveals that it plays a surprising number of roles in our lives. First, the basics. Skin is the foundation of the integumentary system, which also incorporates your hair, nails, and specialized glands and nerves. Made up of 3 layers, the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis, skin's thickness varies from 0.5 millimeters at its thinnest and up to 4 millimeters at its thickest. It also carries out 3 key functions: protecting, regulating, and sensing the world beyond its limits. On a daily basis, its huge surface processes hundreds, if not thousands, of physical sensations, relying mostly on large, pressure-sensitive skin components called Merkel cells. In your fingertips alone, there are 750 Merkel cells per each square centimeter of skin, coupled with over 2,500 receptors that give you your sense of touch. This surface is also the body's first major line of defense. Without it, you'd be a soggy mass of tissue and fluids, fatally exposed to the elements. Skin effectively seals off your insides and also absorbs pressure and shock with flexible collagen that makes up most of its dermal layer. The epidermis is made up mainly of skin cells called keratinocytes that are completely replaced every 4 weeks. As new cells form at the base of the epidermis, older ones are pushed up. When these cells move upwards, they're filled with a hardened protein called keratin. Once they reach the surface, they form a tightly overlapping, waterproof layer that's difficult for invading microbes to breach. Any harmful microbes that make it into the epidermis will encounter Langerhans cells. This group of protective skin cells detects invaders and communicates their presence to resident immune system T cells, which react by launching an immune response. A crucial feature of this immune defense is the several thousand species of microorganisms that inhabit the planes, folds, and crevices of your skin. These microbes, which include bacteria and fungi, thrive in the sebum, an oily substance that's secreted onto the skin's surface by sebaceous glands nestled inside the dermis. These skin microbes keep the immune system in a state of constant surveillance, ensuring that it's ready to react if the body really is at risk. Beyond this protective role, your skin is also a sensory organ that helps regulate your body's temperature, 2 roles that are closely interlinked. Nerves detect whether your skin is warm or cold and communicate that information to your brain. In return, the brain instructs localized blood vessels to either expand if the body is too warm, releasing heat from the blood through the skin, or to constrict if the body is cold, which retains heat. At any given time, up to 25% of the body's blood is circulating through the dermis, making this process extremely efficient. Under warm conditions, the skin's sweat glands will secrete sweat via ducts onto the surface, transferring heat out of the body. Hair can also be stimulated to conserve or release body warmth. The average human has 5 million hair follicles embedded everywhere on the body, except the palms of your hands and soles of your feet. 90 to 150,000 of those are on your scalp, where they help shield the large surface area of your head from physical damage and sunburn. When you're cold, tiny muscles called arrector pili cause hair to stand upright across the body. That's the phenomenon known as goosebumps, and it traps body heat close to your skin. Skin's vast surface isn't just a shield, it also enables us to interact and connect with the world. Its multifunctional layer cools us down and keeps us warm.
It helps to see what the skin actually looks like under a microscope.
Magnified 600 times, our outermost skin is nothing but dead cells, riddled with ridges and grooves, and pocked with countless bumps and holes. Look closer still, and we find hundreds of thousands of bacteria inhabit every square inch of us. With every tick of the clock, our dead skin gets sloughed off. We shed at least 600,000 particles of skin an hour. About 1.5 pounds worth each year, which accounts for as much as 80% of the dust in our houses. But there's plenty of skin to go around. If we could peel it off and lay it out flat, the average person's skin would cover some 18 square feet. Though just millimeters thick, it would weigh about 6 pounds. And we're constantly making more. Just wait a month or so, and you too will have a shiny new coat. Which means skin can't be all dead. Dip below the surface, and you find cells continuously dividing to replace those dead cells above. Miles of blood vessels pulse to skin's connective tissues.
To review, the skin has 2 main layers, the dead epidermis and the living dermis. Embedded in the dermis are glands that secrete certain chemicals. You're most familiar with sweat glands.
Through its network of blood vessels, skin carries as much as 1/3 of the heart's hot, freshly pumped blood. Get too hot, and these vessels can widen to release heat from our bodies. But sometimes, that's not enough. A good workout can raise the body's temperature several degrees above normal, a potentially deadly state if it weren't for skin's slick safety net: sweat. The more than 2 million holes across our skin can produce up to 1/2 gallon of the liquid in an hour. The heated droplets evaporate into the air and leave the body cool. Through a special camera that images heat, not light, we can see this air conditioning system at work. The hotter the body, the deeper the red. No surprise, some of the warmest parts of our bodies, our foreheads, palms, and armpits, correlate with the greatest concentration of sweat glands.
The skin has many functions. First of all, it aids in temperature regulation. The sweat glands of mammals cool the body down by losing heat energy when the salty water evaporates on our skin. By the way, mammary glands, which all female mammals use to produce milk to nourish their young, are just modified sweat glands. Hair and feathers can add an extra layer of insulation to also keep the body warm. Second, the skin prevents an animal from drying out. We are like water balloons, and we don't want any water leaking out. Some animals have mucus glands that add a layer of slime to certain parts of the body, like the lining of the lungs and intestines, to keep them wet. Amphibians are slimy because they have mucus glands all over their body. Mucus glands also kill off bacteria and other foreign invaders, which brings us to the third function of the integumentary system, defense. Animals like amphibians have poison glands that release a poison if the animal's skin is injured. Other animals have large bones called osteoderms embedded in their skin, which creates a layer of armor. Crocodiles, lizards called skinks, and giant extinct fish called placoderms all have these. Turtles are covered in bone, while fish and reptiles are covered in scales made of keratin that protect their insides from harm. Animals may also have claws, hooves, horns, or modified hairs that help them protect themselves from predators. Coloration matters too. Animals may hide by having skin that blends in with their environment. Not all animals want to hide. Some communicate with their skin. Bright colors may be a form of aposematic coloration or warning that the animal is dangerous. Chameleons and animal lizards express how they feel with the color of their skin. A dark-skinned animal is upset about something. Many animals show off their health with the bright color of their skin or feathers, using them as a form of sexual display. The red rear of a baboon is a signal that this animal is interested in mating. Other glands secrete pheromones, perfumes that may express ownership of property or sexual receptiveness. The glands can be found on the feet and face of many animals. For salamanders, they're on the chin. Lastly, animals, particularly those in the deep ocean, have little pores filled with bacteria that can be chemically provoked to produce light. These dots over the body of the animal are called photophores and may function to attract or confuse. One last function of the skin is cutaneous respiration, that is, breathing through your skin. Only fish and amphibians do this. One species in particular, called the hairy frog, has a special form of cutaneous respiration.
It's time for a Queasy Critter!
The hairy frog lives in Central African streams in the forest where it eats insects. The Bakassi people believed that these frogs fall from the sky, and when eaten, help childless human couples become fertile. Unfortunately, this has led to many of these frogs being collected and killed. The reason we are talking about this frog now is that the males have hair-like appendages all along the sides and back of the legs. They use these like gills, increasing the surface area of their skin underwater and allowing them to breathe underwater for long periods of time through their skin. This is necessary because the males take care of the eggs, and the longer they can hold their breath, the more continuous protection they can give to their offspring. And that's not all. This frog also goes by the name wolverine frog and horror frog because when threatened, they will break the bones in their fingers, turning them into sharp claws that they can use to defend themselves. Their bones then regenerate, just like Wolverine. Let's finish today's lecture by watching video clips about skin problems like sunburns and acne, and one focused on the things that live on your skin.
I sunburn super easily. It just takes a few minutes sitting in my garden or on a beach, and then a couple days later, my skin starts peeling off. It's seriously pretty gross. Not exactly the effect most people go for when they sunbathe. But what really happens when you get a sunburn? I'm Anna Rothschild, and this is Gross Science. Most burns occur if you come in contact with something hot, like when you scald the roof of your mouth on a slice of pizza. But sunburns are actually not caused by heat. Sunlight is made up of a bunch of different types of radiation. One of them is infrared radiation, which is primarily what makes sunlight feel hot. But there's also visible light, which allows us to see sunlight, and then there's ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet, or UV radiation, is what causes a sunburn. It can wreak havoc on skin cells by disrupting important molecules like DNA, so your body does its best to protect you from it. When UV radiation hits your skin, pigments called melanin absorb it and shield your DNA from harm. Now, melanin is present in our skin cells all the time. It's what gives your skin its particular color. It's created by special cells called melanocytes, which then distribute the melanin to other cells, cells called keratinocytes. Those are the most common cells in your outermost layer of skin. When your skin is exposed to UV, the melanocytes ramp up their melanin production and also transfer more melanin to the keratinocytes. This happens to varying degrees based on your genetic makeup, but that's why your skin might turn darker or tan if you're out in the sun for a while. But the melanin defense is far from foolproof. Regardless of how dark your skin is or how much you tan, some UV rays can sneak past. And when they do, they can damage your DNA. This can actually happen in a few different ways. Sometimes the radiation will directly zap your DNA, damaging it in just a trillionth of a second. Alternatively, UV rays can do something more sinister. They can actually turn your melanin against you. The radiation can make your cells produce these harmful molecules called free radicals. Now, this is a little bit complicated, but essentially, the free radicals excite an electron in your melanin. I'm excited! The melanin then bumps into your DNA and excites an electron there. I'm excited too! Which can cause the DNA to kink. Regardless of how it happens, once your cells are damaged, they start producing warning molecules, signaling that something bad is going on. If enough cells produce the signal, your body will mount an inflammatory response, sending lots of different types of blood cells to the area to stop and repair the damage. And it's this influx of blood that causes the redness you typically see with a sunburn, depending on how light your skin is. So what about the peeling? Well, your skin cells are shedding all the time without you even noticing it. You actually have stem cells in your skin that live for decades, and the stem cells produce layers of keratinocytes which fall off and are replaced over time. But those keratinocytes don't mature properly when they're damaged by UV. So instead of flaking off inconspicuously, they all clump up and peel off together. Now, your body actually has enzymes that repair a lot of the DNA damage caused by UV rays, but it can't always repair all of it. If the damage isn't fixed in one of your stem cells, you might have a real problem. When those cells replicate, they might create a mutation at the site of the damage. And depending on where the mutation occurs, this could lead the cells to become cancerous sometime down the road. Remember, even if you don't tend to burn, UV radiation can damage your DNA. So if you know you're going to be out in the sun for a while, make sure you're covered up or wearing sunscreen. For me, being outside and exploring the world is super important for my happiness and excites my curiosity. But it's way more fun to go on an outdoor adventure without coming home to disgusting, peeling skin. Ew.
The pilosebaceous unit, or PSU, of the skin consists of the sebaceous gland and the hair follicle. The sebaceous gland secretes an oily substance called sebum, which protects the hair and skin. Overproduction of sebum is related to the disease called acne, or commonly pimples. Sebum may collect excessively as a result of poor hygiene, genetic predisposition, or accelerated glandular activity, especially during adolescence. During an acne breakout, the pore of the hair follicle is plugged by a mixture of sebum and cells that line the hair follicle. The trapped sebum allows bacteria to grow in the plugged follicles. This forms the primary acne lesion called a comedo. There are two types of comedo, whiteheads and blackhead. When the sebum and bacteria stay below the skin surface, a whitehead is formed. A blackhead occurs when the trapped sebum and bacteria partially open to the surface and turn black due to melanin, the skin's pigment.
What if I told you that right now you have dozens of tiny mites eating, laying eggs, dying, and leaking feces all over your face? Turns out you probably do. I'm Anna Rothschild, and this is Gross Science. Face mites, or Demodex mites, are wormy-looking creatures with 8 tiny legs. They're arachnids related to spiders, scorpions, and ticks, and they're really common. They're found in pretty much every society on the planet, and most healthy adults have at least a few. People usually acquire their first mites during childhood, but they don't really start getting busy till you hit puberty. And that's because face mites love oily skin. They live in the hair follicles on your forehead, cheek, and nose, or, depending on the species, inside the sebaceous or oil-producing glands surrounding those follicles. They eat sebum, or skin oil, and also slurp out the insides of your dead skin cells. And that's where things get really gross. You see, face mites don't have anuses.
Bummer.
They store all of their poop in their abdomens until the day they die, at which point they decompose and leak feces all over your face. In fact, some scientists think that the bacteria in their poop could be related to certain skin conditions, like rosacea or blepharitis. Each mite only lives for about 2.5 weeks, but that's more than enough time for them to crawl out onto your skin at night to mate around the edges of your hair follicles. The female then burrows back down and lays one gigantic egg. 2.5 days later, you've got a brand new baby mite, ready to once again begin the circle of life on your face.